So in this video, we're going to be talking a little bit about college and how to navigate college successfully. And one of the best ways to navigate college successfully is to know your professor, Professor 101. There are different kinds of professors who teach different kinds of courses, who ask for different sorts of things. And one of the smartest things you can do as a college student is to ask your professor, what do you expect? Now, hopefully, if your professor is organized and is actually probably following the rules of the university, they will have a syllabus. And that syllabus is going to describe what the formal expectations are. But then there's a set of informal expectations, the kind of expectations that you discuss with some other students, which is a good idea. Talk to some other students, get to know what your professor tends to, if there are exams, what they tend to test on, if there's pieces of homework, what kind of things they tend to focus on. Because it's not going to be the same from class to class. And that's the way it should be in college, both because the subjects are different and because really one of the hidden pieces of the curriculum in a college education is the ability to go from situation to situation, to have slightly different rules apply, and yet to be able to figure out what's going on in that situation, to be able to adjust, and to be able to successfully engage given what the rules are in any kind of situation, knowing the generalities that apply. That's what you should be able to do if you graduate from college. So let me help you out a little bit in terms of this professor, where I come from. You're taking a class with me. I'm all about the syllabus. You know that already because I've mentioned the syllabus in the first week of class about 3 or 4 times. I mention it in the syllabus, I mention it in an announcement, I mentioned it in another video, I'm mentioning it in this video. So you can tell that that's pretty important to me. Something else you can tell is pretty important to me is something called academic integrity. By the way, here's something hidden. You can see handwriting is not that important to me. I can read most people's handwriting, and you're going to have to read mine. Academic integrity used to be called cheating and not cheating, but it's more than simply not cheating. It's the spirit of an academic community in which we learn and we honor the knowledge that has been created by those before us, and we honor the skills that have been developed. The ways of understanding things that have been developed by other people. In academics, we cite that, and that means if there's someone's idea, if there's someone's words, if there's someone's method, we are going to acknowledge it. I expect you to acknowledge it. So in the syllabus, there's a statement on academic integrity, which is longer than most other professors' statements. That's another indication that this is something important to this particular professor, Professor 101. So know those academic integrity standards. I'm saying this up front at the beginning of the semester because I don't want to have academic integrity problems. I want everything to go well. Unfortunately, just about every semester I end up having to take people through, at least one person through the formal student academic integrity violation process. I don't enjoy that, but more than that, I value academic integrity, this culture in which we honor the work that other people do, and we don't essentially try to steal other people's work or misrepresent the work that we're doing, taken from someone else without giving that attribution. So read up on academic integrity. You know that that's something that I value. Here's something I don't value. I do not value names and dates. This is not a history class I'm going to be teaching. I teach sociology and social science courses, and that means that outside of history, some people debate whether history is a social science. I really don't care if you remember who did what on what date and what year. I'm not interested in that kind of specificity. What am I more interested in? I want you to understand theories. These are ideas about the way the world works. Theories are made up of concepts and a particular kind of concept that is related to data, which is observation. And that's called a variable. A variable is something you can measure that takes on multiple values in observed data. I'm really interested in observations of data. So be able to tell me about the patterns in the data. When you see a variable, something that varies in measurement, identify it and relate those variables to a theory and concepts. Okay, if you can do that, you're going to do really well in my class. And occasionally, more than occasionally, I'm going to ask you to go out into the real world and do something. And to do that, you're going to need to understand METHOD, method, the manner in which you go about getting data from the world, organizing that data in terms of variables, to assess the fit of theories, these models about the way the world works. Are they a good fit for the actual world, your ideas, or are they not? Well, we're not just going to talk about it, okay? We're not just going to tell stories. Sorry, this is not a storytelling class. It's a story assessing class. It's a story testing class. We're going to look at theory, we're going to look at concepts, we're going to look at data, and we're going to use methods to assess how the way we think about the world and the way the world actually is match up. If you can get into that groove, you're going to do really well in this class. So your professor in other classes should be going through and explaining, either in the first class or the first few classes, their own approach to understanding the learning process and how you can succeed in their class. And if they don't, you should go ahead and you should start to ask these questions on your own. And that's what makes a good student. That's what makes a successful student. It's what makes an A student. So if you can do that at the beginning of every class, nail these sorts of things down, you'll know what to expect, not just on paper in a syllabus, but this kind of informal stuff. What kind of things you need to pay attention to in order to succeed. Hope this has been helpful, and we'll get back in touch soon doing a more substantive video.